From an inflatable raft floating aimlessly in the Braddock family swimming pool, it's the IGN Digigods. Please welcome two guys who have one word for you: plastics, Wade Major and Mark Kaiser.
Oh yeah, we love those graduate references. Who sent that in, Corey?
That was written by Lorenzo Raffa. He's not trying to seduce you. Just kidding, he is trying to seduce you. He wants to seduce you.
Yeah.
Wade, I'm on the Criterion
Yes.
page.
Yes,
I'm
you are.
looking at Quadrophenia, Wade.
Yeah.
Quadrophenia finally coming out on Blu-ray August 28th.
August.
Cannot wait. Quadrophenia, awesome.
You're going to have to wait till August.
That's true.
Cookies and ice cream, good today. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for
Although,
that.
you know what? I've decided that I'm going to try as best I can to cut sugar out of my diet.
Why?
For a couple of weeks.
For a couple of weeks.
So I can lose weight. You know, I was in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
This
And you had a
weekend.
deep dish pizza.
I did.
Yeah.
I deep dish everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't stop eating when I'm on vacation. And
Yep.
you know what? I was there for Blues Fest.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. But also, now I didn't realize this at the time when I made the reservation.
Yes.
But it turns out that the night I arrived,
Mm-hmm.
Roger Waters was performing The Wall.
No kidding.
Pink Floyd's The Wall.
Are you serious?
At Wrigley Field.
Wow.
Now, The Wall, Pink Floyd's The Wall,
Yeah.
is like my all-time favorite album. And there are stories about how amazing Roger Waters, his presentation of The Wall has been.
Yeah. Our friend Dave has actually seen it live. I think several times.
Well,
It's amazing.
They did it in the early 80s when the album first came out. And then it was such a logistical challenge that, and of course the band had moved on, that he had waited 30 years
Yeah.
to remount the show. Now, here's the thing. I get to Wrigley Field,
Okay.
and you see that there's a wall.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wall.
Yeah.
It looks like the wall from
The Wall. Sure.
Yes. So like, oh, that's a nice set.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the middle of the wall, there's like a cutout
Uh-huh.
where you see the band.
Right.
So in the middle of the stage is the band.
Yeah.
And then on the edges, on the sides, is the wall. Looks like white brick.
Sure.
Turns out, Wade, that's not just a set piece. That is actually a 425-foot-long, 35-foot-tall video screen that projects high-definition images synchronized to the music.
Wow.
It is unreal. The first 5 minutes of the show, when Roger Waters comes out
Yeah.
and basically says, you know, he comes out guns blazing,
Yeah.
pretty much saying, this is what you're in for tonight, it'll blow your mind. Just blow your mind.
Sweet.
And it was really an incredible experience.
I'm thrilled he still does that.
And by the way, I paid $200 for my seat,
Yeah.
worth every penny. A bargain. At
Yeah.
$200.
That
This
is a
thing
bargain.
was amazing. You have never seen anything like Roger Waters doing The Wall. Now, the
I
tour...
paid more than that for just a horrible C2C Streisand like 12 years ago.
Yeah, but the nose, you know, you need to get way back.
You see, you can get away
can
with
do
that.
that.
You can do that.
Because
Yeah.
I'm
You're
of
of
the
the
tribe.
you're of the persuasion. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. No, it was an amazing show.
Cool.
Now, when he had done it in 2010, he did it in arenas
Yeah.
which are obviously a lot smaller. I saw it at Wrigley Field, which is amazing. Wrigley Field, fantastic stadium, but also it's a lot bigger.
Didn't he do one like in Berlin after the fall of the wall or something? Wasn't there one there?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He did. He's toured all around the world.
That's amazing.
And the thing is that the show, if he comes to your town, I don't care how much it costs, you got to see it. I don't care if you've never heard of Pink Floyd, you have never seen a multimedia experience like this. This is like nothing you have ever seen.
It's also kind of sad how Dave Gilmour keeps going around with his just ridiculous 9-hour-long guitar solo performances as if he's still Pink Floyd.
You know, he was
By
never.
himself.
Look, he's responsible for a lot of the great guitar solos,
Yeah,
and
true.
you know that.
But
classic,
but like 3-hour-long guitar performances by Dave Gilmour are not enthralling.
And by the way, Gilmour's probably most famous guitar solo, which is the solo from "Comfortably Numb" from
Yes.
The Wall,
Mm-hmm.
is reproduced here by very talented musicians. You would never know there's no Dave Gilmour.
Wall needs to be on Blu-ray.
By the
I'm
way,
just saying that. It
that's
needs
true.
to be on Blu-ray.
And by the way, can I say something?
Great movie. Alan Parker.
Yes,
The best.
Okay, this is the last thing I'll say about The
Yeah.
Wall at Wrigley Field. A great experience.
Yeah.
Roger Waters
Mm-hmm.
runs up and down the stage
Yep.
for 2.5 hours, mounting an incredibly difficult conceptual multimedia art piece. Roger Waters, 68 years old.
Isn't that wild?
68. The guy's almost 70 years old.
He's 6 years younger than Ridley Scott.
He's almost 70 years old. He's wearing black pants and a black T-shirt, and he is running around like he's 30
How old
years
is
younger.
Mick Jagger? He's up there too, isn't he?
Mick Jagger, I think, is about 600 years old.
Yeah. Schwarzenegger or Stallone is 65.
That's just terrible.
Isn't that amazing? He's 65.
But by the way, Jagger's 68.
See?
Yes.
Bloody hell, he's 68. 3 years older than Mitt Romney and Stallone, who are the same age. They're both collecting Social Security this year. Well, neither
He's
of
had
them
a-
are, but they're eligible to.
Stallone has had a lot of bad work done.
Yeah, that's
You know,
true.
Sometimes it's been a while since I don't live in Santa Monica anymore, but
Mm-hmm.
Schwarzenegger
Yeah.
used to drive up and down the streets of Santa Monica all the time.
His
His kids went to that preschool in Montana.
I used to know his nanny.
There you go.
Yeah.
And sometimes you'd see him
Sure.
cruising up and down.
Absolutely.
His kids went to that preschool in Montana in
Yeah.
15th or something.
Mm-hmm.
And if you see him in person, on screen it doesn't look as bad.
Yeah.
If you see him in person, oof. Man, that's some work done.
All right. Well, you know what? We are now going to talk about DVDs. Oh, and also later on in the show, we're going to be talking about, we're going to have a giveaway, television giveaway for something that we're not going to review until next week, but we are going to do the giveaway this week. So stay tuned for that. We're going to wrap the show up with that. I'm not going to talk about that until later in the show. So just to tease everybody, there will be a giveaway.
I want to win something. Can I win something?
Yeah. Well, anyway, now we are going to talk about DVDs, and we got a ton.
Yuck.
We're never going to get through all this stuff, but you know what has been released this week?
Yuck, yuck, yuck.
It is extraordinary. If you have not been keeping up with all of the chronological releases of the Three Stooges,
Yuck, yuck.
the 20-disc Ultimate Collection is now out. The comprehensive 20-disc complete mega ultra super Three Stooges set. Now here's the thing. I'm going to warn everybody. Yes, this is the complete Columbia collection of Three Stooges shorts. There are a lot of public domain releases out there that contain earlier shorts that are not officially Three Stooges shorts, but they are short films that featured the Howard brothers and sometimes Larry Fine, and they're sort of the precursors to the Three Stooges. And if you want that heritage, if you want that lineage to sort of chart how the Stooges became the Stooges, you can go out and buy that from one of the PD distributors. But if you want the official Columbia stuff, all 190 shorts, can you believe they made 190 shorts?
Back then,
That's amazing. That's
what they did.
It's just unreal. All 190 shorts, plus 2 of their feature films, are out in this 20-disc set. And it also includes 3 Columbia cartoons and 28 shorts that have never been released before. Now, this is all of the stuff from 1934 to 1959 that was previously released in all of these individual little, year-by-year releases. And there were like 8 of those, I think. Anyway, this also includes an extras disc, which is fantastic. I mean, it's just there's more Stooge stuff on here than you can possibly consume. It is hours and hours and hours of Stooges stuffs and bonking and poking in the eyes and Niagara Falls and Raja Aha. It's all here. It's spectacular. It's beautiful, and I think it's great. This is out now. You can start saving for Christmas because lots of dads are going to want this for the holidays, for whatever gift holiday you celebrate. Get it. It is fantastic. The mastering is excellent, and the question has arisen, will this be out on Blu-ray? I'm sure eventually, but I find it very hard to believe that if they didn't release the Blu-ray concurrent with this, a Blu-ray set, not coming for quite a while.
This would have to sell like gangbusters.
This is going to have to sell like crazy. So,
by the way, I don't know that it is.
I don't see a Blu-ray release anywhere in the next year and a half to 2 years of this. So get it now, enjoy it, and you know what? Honestly, really, is there anyone who watches the Stooges and says, I don't know, it's missing something because it's not in high def? I mean, it was not well shot to begin with. These things, they cranked them out. They blew them out. So just enjoy it. Just get it. Enjoy it. It rules.
Wade, can I say something controversial?
Go ahead.
Three Stooges, not funny.
You know what? I agree with you. But it's a funny thing. My wife, who hates Jerry Lewis and can't stand the Marx Brothers, loves the Three Stooges.
Really, she doesn't like the Marx Brothers?
Does not like the
Marx
Marx
Brothers.
Brothers.
Oh, they're gods.
I know.
Gods among men.
I know. I agree.
Groucho gods.
And as long as we're talking about the comedy genius of Jerry Lewis and the Marx Brothers and the Three Stooges, what do they all have in common?
The Marx Brothers, Jerry Lewis, and Three Stooges. They're all funny?
They're all of the tribe. Right? To put it in your vernacular?
I'm just saying.
I know.
You know what? It's
Jews and movies. It's
true.
a marriage made in heaven. And it's the comedy, you know. Screen comedy is Jewish. It is. Billy Wilder, and we can go on and on and on.
Catskill stuff?
Yeah, it is. It's just it's amazing. Film comedy begins with Jews.
There's pretty much 60 years of Jewish comedy broken up briefly by Eddie Murphy in the 80s. And then really
and then there's Ben Stiller.
He's Jewish?
Yeah, so I've heard. You know what? I want to go through some company things here. There are 3 giant company releases that I also want to touch on. And we have a new company that we're covering a lot of titles on going forward. And I want to give them a big plug and a big push because they are an outstanding company. And we're talking about Twilight Time. Twilight Time, because the studios don't care about targeted stuff. They just want to blow out the big titles and get the mass marketing projects going. These companies are actually helping the studios better exploit their libraries. And Twilight Time started up last year. They are one of them. They are sub-licensing titles from 20th Century Fox and Sony. And they have some amazing titles. They're releasing 2 titles a month. You can only get these at screenarchives.com. So make a note of that. Everything I'm going to talk about right now, you can only get at screenarchives.com. That's where the Twilight Time titles are. You're not going to go on to Amazon or anywhere else and find them. Screenarchives, plural.com. Screenarchives.com. And ScreenArchives.com, by the way, is associated with Film Score Monthly. Yeah, which is also absolutely terrific. First title I'm going to mention here, a Blu-ray from Twilight Time of The Big Heat, which is Fritz Lang's big noir, his big Hollywood noir.
Awesome.
From 1953, an interesting, not a 30s or 40s noir, but it feels like a 40s noir, but it's 1953, so it has a little bit of early Cold War grit going on with it. And I'll tell you, Glenn Ford, of Santa Monica High School graduate, I might say. I walk past his photograph in the history building every single day of my high school, 3 years in high school.
4 years in high school?
4 years, 3, 2, 1, dropped out.
What are you going to say about these what's the Twilight Time discs? Yeah. They're like $30 each.
You know what?
That's almost like Criterion expensive.
Frickin' worth it. Every penny, I got to tell you. The Big Heat is a great noir. It's one of the all-time classic noirs. It's such a moody, cool film, and Fritz Lang brings all of that German expressionism to the noir feeling for it. Glenn Ford is great. It's got so many dark edges. Gloria Graham, who had a lot of work done over the course of her life, is fantastic. She's just really creepy and sultry and ditzy and dangerous, and I love her in this. By the way, she had a freaky life, Gloria Graham. Oh my gosh. Look her up on Wikipedia. You will not believe. It's just amazing. Anyway, absolutely terrific film. And you know who's young and menacing in this film, among many others?
Lee Marvin.
Lee Marvin.
Lee Marvin was never a handsome man.
Oh, my gosh. He is so... I mean, when he got older and the hair got white, you kind of bought him because he looked like a crusty, ugly old guy. When he's young, he is scary. He plays a thuggish Malouk in this movie. He is just really... He's an uggo. Man, he's good. So that's The Big Heat. You're going to love it. It's just great. It's, Glenn Ford plays a cop, and he's, he gets embroiled with the powers that be in an investigation he shouldn't be following.
It's a corrupt city.
Oh, it's such a corrupt city.
City of crime, Wade.
There's
only one good man left standing.
There you
Ford.
go. I know.
So good.
It's classic noir.
Yep.
I can't believe that they allowed this to escape over at Columbia, but they did. The Oscar-winning As Good as It Gets with Jack Nicholson. You know what? But I'm glad. Twilight Zone did a great, great release of this as well. Like, all of these have isolated score tracks, I should point out.
I love that. I love when they do that.
And
love it.
This is great. Has the trailer, no other extras. It would have been nice to get commentary from James L. Brooks, but you know what? Shy of that, it's a great Blu-ray. It's a terrific Blu-ray. This, of course, won a Screenplay Oscar and also won Best Actress for Helen Hunt, shockingly, because everybody was expecting Judi Dench to win that year for Her Majesty Mrs. Brown. And I remember Helen Hunt even went up and just said, I almost feel, she said she felt guilty because I guess she voted for Judi Dench.
Now, you realize that I went to the New York premiere of that movie.
Did you really?
Yes, I did.
Oh, you lucky son of a bitch.
Because I was working with Greg Kinnear at the time.
Oh, that's right. And he got an Oscar nomination for that,
well,
too.
actually, by that point, I wasn't working with him. I stayed friends with him after we were done working together, and he took me to the premiere.
No
I
kidding.
took my cousin with me.
that.
She was my date. And when it was over, I met Jack Nicholson.
John Steinbeck's The Wayward Bus.
Sounds like a comedy. The Wayward Bus with Don Knotts. You never know what goes on the wacky Wayward Bus.
This is a kind of a strange oddity. This is from 1957, and nobody really even knows about this. Believe it or not, this film stars Joan Collins and Jane Mansfield. I had no idea Joan Collins and Jane Mansfield ever even met, much less appeared in a movie together. But they're both really good in it, believe it or not. And it's a road picture.
John Steinbeck and his road pictures.
I know, right? But it's one of the few movies that really goes to those parts of California that nobody realizes exist. Everybody thinks that California is just like San Francisco and Los Angeles and maybe San Diego. They don't realize that there's
and the Playboy Mansion.
What's a Hearst Mansion?
Hearst Castle.
Hearst Castle, but nobody realizes that there are these vast small town swaths that just look like Arkansas. I mean, really, it's just sort of like desert and desolate and very peculiar.
The Wayward Bus.
So anyway, The Wayward Bus is sort of an expose of that area, and it is gorgeous CinemaScope cinematography, and really fascinating film to discover if you haven't heard of it. Another one from Twilight Time, Desiree. What's Desiree? What is it in French? It means desired.
And you know what? It's with Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando is all about films with the name Desire.
And Gene Simmons. Gene Simmons and Marlon Brando. And Merle Oberon. Really a gorgeous film. I can't say that I love this film. It was made in 1954. I can't say it's even Marlon Brando's best film, but it really is a very opulent film, very nicely put together. It's one of those...
This is Brando. As Brando in this movie, he plays Napoleon.
Yes.
Brando plays Napoleon.
Well, you know what? Look, Brando, and who played his brother in On the Waterfront?
Carl Malden.
Rod Steiger.
Rod Steiger.
Rod Steiger also played Napoleon.
What?
Isn't that interesting?
No.
Both of them played Napoleon.
It is not interesting. I find it superbly uninteresting.
Steiger played Napoleon rather badly, actually, in that Sergei Bondarchuk movie where it's all his grumbling voiceover. It's terrible. Anyway, not the best casting in the world, but you know what? It certainly has that big opulent CinemaScope feel from the 1950s. It's very much an artifact of its time. Very nicely done. So, I'd say just on the basis of opulence alone, it's worth checking out. Very nicely done by Henry Koster. Good solid studio level guy. Swamp Water is a genre noir film that has also kind of fallen between the cracks a little bit. Genre noir made a handful of Hollywood films, and they weren't as genius as his French films by any measure, but they all had a certain artistic flair, and they didn't fit well in the Hollywood mode, but they're oddities, but they're fascinating films. It's like he's trying to straddle a fence in some way, and Swamp Water is terrific. It's it's one of those films that sort of tries to depict Americana through the eyes of a foreigner. And he, of course, gets a very, very American cast here. Walter Brennan, Walter Houston, Ann Baxter, Dana Andrews. And this is a fascinating adaptation of a novel that I had never heard of by someone named Vereen Bell.
Called The Wayward Bus.
Yeah. Anyway, this is Swamp Water, not The Wayward Bus. We've moved on, Mark. But it takes place in a swamp in Georgia. And it's all about that particular kind of scary aspect of American culture, and it's decent. Demetrius and the Gladiators is also one of those not very good films, but it's a big opulent film. Now, if you've seen Gladiator, of course, the Gladiator that we all know and love from 12 years ago, much better film by far. This is actually a sequel to The Robe from 1953. The Robe, of course, is really only distinguished because it was the first widescreen movie. It was the first big full-color widescreen Hollywood epic spectacle CinemaScope, thing. And Demetrius and the Gladiators is a rather lackluster follow-up to it. and we got Anne Bancroft again, by the way. But part of it is because Victor Mature just never really would. Do you like Victor Mature in anything, by the way?
Not really. I mean, he's fine. Well, he's one of those guys, but he's not my favorite.
He's just one of those guys, just kind of a stony, pretty face and a square jaw, and didn't really work for me in anything. He never really looks like he belongs in a movie. He just looks like he's posing all the time. Anyway, Victor Mature plays Demetrius, and not very well, but really good music. The isolated score is very nice here. Franz Waxman just really nailed it. So the music is much better than the movie, but again, it's a big spectacle, so if you want to kind of indulge yourself and immerse yourself in the spectacles of the era, then that's great. One of my all-time favorite themes for any movie, one of my all-time favorite scores is Picnic. Absolutely fantastic music, and that makes the isolated score such a treat for Picnic. This is adapted from William Inge's Pulitzer Prize-winning play, and William Holden is just fantastic in this. All takes place in that small Kansas town, and it's a slice of Americana, but it's great music. Joshua Logan, who was really middling in a lot of his films, did a lot of great stuff, did a lot of crap. He nails it here. Picnic is a terrific movie and a gorgeous, gorgeous Blu-ray. Journey to the Center of the Earth. Jules Verne's Journey to the Center of the Earth is kind of a cheesy movie, but it makes for a decent Blu-ray. This is from 1959, and it's nicely made. It's passable. Nothing fantastic, nothing that'll blow your mind, but a decent screenplay co-written by Charles Brackett, who we of course all admire and love, starring Pat Boone, who is not the most magnetic actor in the world, but it's a great Blu-ray, I guess, for the kids. And then we got a handful of DVDs also that I'll go through real quickly from Twilight Time. One is The Egyptian, which was sort of, let's just say it set the stage for the Ten Commandments. It was made 2 years before the Ten Commandments, and it's not terribly interesting because once again it features Victor Mature. Gene Simmons is in this as well. A lot of the same people showing up. Peter Ustinov, who popped up in a lot of these things. It is opulent. It is interesting in some respects, but not that great. Michael Curtiz definitely out of his element with this film. The Left Hand of God, a middling Humphrey Bogart effort that feels a little bit like he's out of his element as well, but he gives it a really good shot. This is directed by Eddie Dimitrick, who is often pilloried for informing during the House Un-American Activities Committee. Gene Tierney, another one we just talked about a second ago, is in this, along with Agnes Moorehead, who was gorgeous at the time. A lovely CinemaScope film set in Civil War China of 1947. Very nice and historical, beautifully put together. Decent film. Woman Obsessed. A film that I had not seen for a very, very long time. Interesting to see if it holds up. Henry Hathaway, who was one of the great all-time Western directors, really did do a good job with this. Susan Hayward is a lovely actress and very sharp in this. Theodore Beichel, a little bit misguided, miscast. I always prefer him in My Fair Lady, of course, as Zoltan Karpathy. But, Susan Hayward, really good actress. We often forget how good she was. And Stephen Boyd, of course. We had talked about Ten Commandments. Stephen Boyd starred with Charlton Heston and Ben-Hur. See, there are all these little connective tissues from the 1950s, Mark.
Well done, Wade.
Thank you.
You put two and two together and got four.
I guess of some kind. Anyway, no, this is a good little, very focused, melodramatic Western. It takes place in Saskatchewan, of all places, but decent film worth checking out. Probably more of a rental thing, but remember, screenarchives.com. And then lastly, The Flim Flam Man. Mark, when was the last time you saw The Flim Flam Man?
I like The Flim Flam Man because I love George C. Scott.
You know who directed this?
George C. Scott.
I had totally forgotten who directed this. No, George C. Scott is great in it, but the director of this thing, this is from 1967, Irvin Kershner.
Really?
Irvin Kershner.
Did not know that.
A decade and a half before he made Empire Strikes Back.
Look at that.
And it was around about 1985 that he did Never Say Never Again, which I worked the premiere of.
And he also did...
we had bonbons. We had a special freezer at the Man's National Theater for bonbons, just for the premiere.
Another good Kershner film is The Jagged Edge.
Yes, and the television movie Escape from Entebbe. Or Raid on Entebbe. Sorry,
yes.
Raid on Entebbe. There were two of them. Anyway, so, George C. Scott, terrific. Plays a con artist, and Michael Sarrazin plays his protege, his assistant. And you know what? It's a little bit like a dirty, rugged, rougher version of The Sting, but not a great film, but an interesting film. William Rose, a very nice screenplay, one of the more character-driven con films that you'll see in your lifetime. And Mark, let's...
Yes?
This is one of your all-time favorite films.
No, you know what? I'll tell you something. I'm one of the only people who has said disparaging things.
I know. That's
about Hoosiers.
That was my intentional joke.
Everybody loves Hoosiers. If you love sports movies, you love Hoosiers. You cry at the end of Hoosiers. Hoosiers is the greatest thing ever. You know what? Hoosiers don't like it. It's not a great movie.
I also have problems with the Jerry Goldsmith music in this movie. It doesn't quite work for me.
You know, I love Gene Hackman, my all-time favorite actor. Love him in everything because he's Gene Hackman. But I'm just not a big fan of this film. The Blu-ray looks really good. There's one thing that was ported over from the DVD, which I'm glad they included here, which is the actual 1954 championship game that was dramatized in the film. They actually have that game. That game was on TV. I think it's a kinescope. I can't quite remember. It might have been a kinescope. But they actually have on the Blu-ray the championship game, the actual one from 1954. And that's a great little find.
It's more interesting than the movie.
But otherwise, and then Dennis Hopper, he's drunk and he shows up and he's great and they give him a chance and he redeems himself and just the only scene of this film that I thought was even remotely different than any other sports film that I had seen is that scene where Hackman takes the boys into the gym where they're going to face the big bad team that they're destined to lose to, whatever, and he has one of the players measure the height of the basket. Gene Hackman says, how tall is that basket? Kids are like, what are you talking about? How tall is the basket? And the kid says 10 feet. And Hackman's point is that the basket is always 10 feet. It's no taller here than it is where we live. It's just basketball. Don't get intimidated. Just play your game. The basket is the same.
Yep.
It's the same everywhere. And it was a nice moment. Otherwise, Hoosiers, not on board. And I've taken a lot of crap for that.
That's okay. You're entitled. We have a fantastic Blu-ray DVD combo pack here of a classic noir that a lot of people have been begging for a long time. Barbara Stanwyck and Van Heflin in The Strange Love of Martha Ivers. This is one of the coolest noirs you will ever see, and it's got a lot. I mean, it's not just Barbara Stanwyck and Van Heflin. This also includes Lauren Bacall, Kirk Douglas, and a lot of really cool supporting actors that you're constantly surprised by. You just go, wow, I look at how young they all are. It's a great noir directed by Louis Milestone, who, of course, previously did All Quiet on the Western Front, and this is just so gorgeously transferred. They make a point of pointing out that this was transferred from the 35mm archival print that is with the Library of Congress right now. And in addition to that beautiful archival black and white transfer, you also have a really cool commentary from William Hare, who is a film noir expert and actually wrote a book on film noir and in Los Angeles and the role of film noir in film history. So he does a very good job of sort of placing the film in its context and so forth and so on. And then you also have a restoration demo, which is always nice to see how they kind of clean these things up so you have a little bit more of an appreciation for it. That is The Strange Love of Martha Ivers. Absolutely fantastic transfer on Blu-ray and a Blu-ray DVD combo pack. Welcome.
Wait, let's zoom into the future with Act of Valor on Blu-ray and DVD. And this is an interesting film. Not the content, because I didn't like the movie, but this movie is cast and stars currently serving Navy SEALs. Active duty Navy SEALs play basically themselves in a fictional tale about... I'm
going to guess no Academy Award nominations there.
That is correct. The movie is essentially just a big recruiting film. It's very simplistic. It's all about just the heroism of these Navy SEALs. Not that they're not heroic in real life. I'm not saying that, but if in a movie, you need characters, you need stakes that the heroes might lose. You need a story that involves you. You don't just need the verisimilitude of actual Navy SEALs in a movie. And this movie has none of that. It's really just a very simplistic recruiting film, but did very well, cost very little, but did very well. Obviously, this is really a heartland film. This really doesn't play with the coasts. But the one thing that is interesting about this film, the Blu-ray looks great, and the movie was shot on a Canon 5D.
Really?
Yes, which you can over the counter, a couple $1,000.
I've got a 7D.
You can shoot Act of Valor.
I could. I just need to go out and find something. I don't buy the bit, by the way, as well, that they use real bullets, all real live rounds. There's no way. There's just no way. They wouldn't have been able to get insurance for the film. They wouldn't have been able to get the camera crews near there. That's BS. I don't buy it.
So anyway, until Wade directs Act of Valor 2, Electric Boogaloo,
yes,
we have this. And the DVD of the Blu-ray is loaded up. Director's commentary, deleted scenes, the director's intro, interviews with the Navy SEALs. Anyway, God bless our Navy SEAls, but I do not bless Act of Valor.
7 Days in Utopia is one of these family-approved, faith-based movies that make a lot of people run.
I have no faith. I have no faith in
they run the other
movies.
way. I always get creeped out when I see that family-approved seal with the white dove on a movie because I just think, oh gosh. I actually saw this thing when it was released. I had to see this for NPR at the time, and it's a Blu-ray, and it's a perfectly acceptable transfer. Arc Entertainment did a decent job putting it to Blu-ray. Not like it's any kind of a cinematic masterpiece. It's nicely photographed, and you get to see all the cracks in Robert Duvall's face. I like this film because of Melissa Leo and Lucas Black. Frankly, Melissa Leo, of course, who won an Academy Award a few years ago. Lucas Black, a very underrated actor, I gotta say. He doesn't get a lot of parts because he has such a southern drawl, but. He kind of holds his own here. He plays a young golfer who has just completely melted down. He had a just disastrous implosion on the golf course, and it looks like his entire professional career is going to go down the toilet until he winds up stranded in a little town called Utopia. And it turns out that there's this guy, this rancher, played by Robert Duvall, who is sort of his let's just say he's his Miyagi when it comes to getting him back on track with his golf. And it's kind of a Karate Kid thing, and at that point, and it's fine. There's it's got a little bit of a religious subtext to it, a little church going thing, and God steps in and helps him improve his golf game as he does with everyone. And I think that's a good message for people who play golf.
Play golf?
Yeah,
I don't like golf.
That God
don't get it.
God loves golf. God is a golf fan.
Nobody knows that for sure.
After this movie, you'll know that. Anyway, you know what it is. It's fine. If you're a golf fan, if you want a family film that'll teach your kids to love God through golf, 7 Days in Utopia is your film.
Wade, Machine Gun Preacher stars the currently fading Gerard Butler.
Jeez, is he just on a completely downward spiral or what? It's like, he came out of nowhere. He was suddenly in Phantom of the Opera as the Phantom, and he was fine. I like that movie. I thought he was perfectly fine. He's no Michael Crawford, but he was decent. He kept his pitch most of the movie. And then everybody's like hailing him as the second coming of Russell Crowe or something, and he proceeds to make a whole bunch of horrible movies, including a really bad one with Jennifer Aniston. Didn't he make a bad one with Katherine Heigl, too?
They're all bad.
They're all bad. Anyway, he's just making horrible movies, and I don't know what the deal is.
You know what it is? Look, there's a moment in every young man's life when they get projects that will either make them a lot of money and red carpet, entertainment television famous, or they make choices that'll make them actors with long careers. And these guys, a lot of these guys, they just go for the money.
I know.
I think Butler's going for the money. Anyway, Wade, this movie, what did you think of this movie? This is the whole Coney 2012 campaign thing.
Yeah.
The video, the Coney video,
which I thought was creepy. By the way, everybody else was like, "Oh my gosh, we have to go capture him." And I'm like, I'm not arguing with that, but I feel like some weird death cult manufactured this video to try and get me to donate to their campaign against Coney, which is like, yeah, great, but you're creeping me out. It's a creepy documentary, that Coney thing.
Well, in Machine Gun Preacher, Butler plays this outlaw biker, this guy named Sam,
and he learns to play golf because God loves golf.
Yes, he does. He finds Jesus, and he decides to go to Sudan.
There's a theme on the show.
Yes, yes, that's true. Jesus? No. He finds Jesus, decides to go to Sudan and build an orphanage right in the middle of the territory that's sort of owned by the Lord's Resistance Army, which is Coney's actual, band of evil,
misfits.
Horrible, disgusting, going to hell brothers.
Yeah.
So there really is a bit of a a topical edge to this. I just don't know that I really buy it all that much. I feel like it's it's a weird movie because it's like Coney supposedly kills in the name of Christ. You know what? I didn't like this movie.
Well, look, God sends one guy to the Sudan to kill Coney, and he sends the other guy to improve his golf game with Robert Duvall. God works in mysterious ways.
Exactly.
Or rather, movies about God are mysterious. I'm not sure which one.
There is some stuff here that is kind of effective, where the character kind of, he struggles with his doubt and he's his righteous anger, and that he even though he's supposedly doing it he's a preacher who's working for good, he still kills and he blows people away with his machine gun. So there's definitely there's like a bit of a yin and yang internal struggle thing going on. But ultimately, even though it's based on a true story and everybody's fine in it, I prefer something like Blood Diamond. I like Blood Diamond. I prefer that.
Hate it.
Really?
Yeah, don't like it.
This film does not really didn't really thrill me. But anyway, the movie was shot on 16 with some 35 millimeter footage mixed in, which I like, and that stuff is very well represented on the Blu-ray. And it's good. There's a lot of good. What's it called? Extras in it.
Yeah.
There's a discussion with the director, Mark Forster, who directed a James Bond film.
Mm.
Mark Forster, by the way, he directed a James Bond film.
I know.
In fact, I'm going to go on record as saying he directed the worst James Bond film.
Yes, he did.
Quantum of Solace.
Yes, he did.
I hated that movie.
Yep. Quaalude of Solstice. John Wayne's Hondo is finally out on Blu-ray. Thank you, Paramount. This is a cool movie. I'm hot and cold with John Wayne movies, but this one, Hondo, really is one of the great ones. It is a lot of fun to watch. And it basically, it's like the Magnificent Seven, except it's just John Wayne. He's the Magnificent One. And he is going to hold the Apaches away, and he's going to protect Geraldine Page and her ranch, and that's just how it is. James Arness is in this as well, which is a nice thing. Marshall Matt Dillon, who was sort of television's John Wayne, and shows up in a John Wayne movie. You know who directed this?
Irvin Kershner?
John Farrow. You know
John
who John Farrow was?
No, I do not.
1953. He had a little daughter around about that time, named Mia.
Steve?
Named Mia, who in about 15 years' time would give birth to the devil. Isn't that special? And then we also have this. I would almost say we got a lot of good movies this week and a lot of great Criterions still to come. But I'm gonna go ahead and say
I want that. You're not giving me that either, are you?
Hell no. I'm gonna go ahead and say that this incredibly, beautifully, wonderfully restored version of Yellow Submarine, the Beatles' Yellow Submarine, is this week's pick of the week. This is a kind of a strange deal because this belongs to Capitol Records, and Capitol Records isn't farming this out to any distributor. They're releasing it themselves. They're using their record label distribution pipeline to put this out there on Blu-ray, and this is just so spectacular. Now, there's a DVD out as well, which we did not get, a remastered DVD as well, but you know what? As our friend Ray Green always likes to say, he likes animation where you can see the thumbprints. And this is a classic, legendary, one-of-a-kind piece of animation that still holds the test. It stands the test of time. It is just a tremendous movie. And it comes with heaps and gobs and piles of extras, including a commentary track with John Coates and Heinz Edelman. Tons of featurettes, trailers, storyboards, photos, interviews with the cast and crew and the vocal talent, pencil drawings. It's a beautiful homage to a great animated classic that does what animated Blu-rays and DVDs should with the extras, which is take you behind the scenes of the craft. And it's just incomparable. You got to go get it. The Beatles' Yellow Submarine on Blu-ray this week, my pick of the week.
Are you saying I have to go get that? Are you demanding I get it?
Yeah, why not? Well, maybe. We also have a bunch of, if your testosterone is low this week, here's my remedy. You can choose Red Scorpion with Dolph Lundgren. I will break you. Even though that's not from Red Scorpion. Synapse has released a Blu-ray of Dolph Lundgren's Red Scorpion, which is just right at that moment in 1989 when Dolph Lundgren was starting to make really, really, really just stupid, horrible exploitation action films and put his newfound fame from Rocky V right into the toilet. You know what? This is not a good film, but everybody knows it's kind of a schlocky film, which is why I think Synapse wound up with it. It's kind of become a B-movie classic, and it contains a whole bunch of stuff that really doesn't improve the film, including a video interview with Jack Abramoff, who was producer, and a video interview with Tom Savini, who did the makeup effects on it, the great Tom Savini. And other than that, really not much to recommend it. If that doesn't get your testosterone going, Mark, Chuck Norris.
Oh yeah.
I would tell one of those Chuck Norris jokes, but we've all heard them way too much. Trio of Chuck Norris films that are exclusive to Walmart from MGM. They include Missing in Action 1, Missing in Action 2, and The Delta Force. Now, these are all these Chuck Norris movies that the only reason they've fallen in with MGM is because MGM now owns the Canon library. And, you know,
when Alexander Bell invented the telephone, he
Yeah.
had 3 missed calls from Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris doesn't call the wrong number. You answer the wrong phone.
I knew that you would go there. If I didn't, you'd go there.
Just the greatest. Go sit around the campfire and tell Chuck Norris stories.
Oh, that's too funny.
Oh my God.
Anyway, yes, these you know.
Oh,
here we go. Come on, throw it on.
I just think these are the funniest things in the world. These are almost funnier than like really good Yo Mama jokes. Some magicians can walk on water. Chuck Norris can swim through land. Oh my God. Chuck Norris is the reason why Waldo is hiding.
That's a good one.
There you go. Chuck Norris can slam a revolving door.
It's too funny. So anyway, Walmart exclusives for these 3 Chuck Norris films from his canon period. I don't particularly like the canon period for Chuck Norris because I like the Chuck Norris films from sort of the post-Bruce Lee period. Good Guys Wear Black and the Octagon and Force of One. I like all those films. Those are great films because they're martial arts films.
Chuck Norris makes onions cry.
Anyway, but some people really love these. Lee Marvin, much older than he was. Yes.
Chuck Norris can strangle you with a cordless phone.
Oh, so
these never stop getting. These
Never.
never stop getting. They just never stop being funny. I don't understand how that's possible.
Lee Marvin, considerably older and craggier here than he was in The Big Heat, also shows up in The Delta Force, which is just really silly, but it's got a kind of kitschy 80s charm to it. The 2 Missing in Action films were, of course, part of that moment, which also included legitimate films like Uncommon Valor, when everybody was concerned about and Rambo, of course, was one of the first ones that got into that, rescuing POWs that were still in Vietnam, and that persisted for about a decade beyond the end of the Vietnam War, and by the time we get into the 90s, I think everybody pretty much gave up on that notion. But you know what? They're on Blu-ray. They are not great Blu-ray transfers, but they're certainly adequate, and it's nice to have that kitsch back in the mix again.
Oh, too funny. Anyway, Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance is the latest piece of crap from the Ghost Rider series. This was directed by Neville Dean and Taylor, who are one of those super uber, they're all about the shot compositions and the crazy, super avant-garde video game-looking sequences. They did the horrible Jonah Hex, whatever it was called, with Josh Brolin. This was their follow-up, and thankfully this did equally bad. Hopefully Neville Dean and Taylor will go away. The movie, you know what? It's certainly no better or worse than the first one. Nicolas Cage has wanted to play a superhero forever, and there was a moment when he was going to play Superman in a Tim Burton film. That didn't happen, but Norris. But Cage, who collects comic books, the only one who'd give him a part is the guys who made Ghost Rider. So this is available on Blu-ray and also Blu-ray 3D. Neither one worth it. Does the Blu-ray look good? Yes, it's a good-looking Blu-ray. There's nothing wrong with it. The special features include deleted scenes, which is kind of like who cares. Director's a video commentary by the director, which actually I thought was kind of interesting. But otherwise, there's really no reason to check out Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, other than it's a good-looking Blu-ray, but really, you have to suffer through the film to see that?
Tim actually liked it.
Really?
Yeah, Tim thought that Nick Cage just camped it up and really actually made it tolerable. And Tim walked in prepared to thoroughly hate it. So it's the expectations game again. All 3 Spider-Man movies are out once again for obvious reasons. Now, here's a little backstory on this, not to take up too much time, but, Spider-Man is a Marvel hero who is going to revert to Disney, who now owns Marvel, in a matter of years. So Columbia still owns the license on the Spider-Man movies for a little while longer, and that's why they have rebooted the franchise and why they are going to milk that cow until it is dead. Because they don't get Spider-Man forever in perpetuity. So they're just going to use that franchise as best they can. They're going to use it up while they still have a contract, and then it's going to be all over, and Disney's going to have to figure out what to do with it. So with the new Spider-Man film then coming out, in order to obviously boost that profile, they have released the previous Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy on Blu-ray again. And the only difference here is that it comes with Ultraviolet. 3 separate Blu-rays plus Ultraviolet. I don't think this is enough to upgrade. It is the exact same transfer. There is nothing substantially different with these unless you're somebody who missed it the first time around or you see some incredible, amazing use to Ultraviolet, which I don't. But there it is. And...
Wade, speaking of sports...
Oh, yeah. Speaking of.
A couple sports titles this week. We have from ESPN Films. They have embarked on a very interesting documentary series called 30 for 30. And here they have collected the 30 of the 30 for 30 films. And they have boxed it up into a great little tight Blu-ray package. This is good stuff. This is these were all seen on television. And a lot of these are just, we're talking like, some of these documentaries are as good as anything you've seen since Hoop Dreams. I mean, there are documentaries here about Fernando Valenzuela and Jimmy the Greek and Muhammad Ali, and a great one about who killed the USFL, which is a good one. Some stuff about the Yankees. Marion Jones is an interesting one, too. These are terrific. 30 for 30. These are on Blu-ray. Some of them are very well shot. Some use a lot of vintage footage that doesn't really lend themselves to Blu-ray, but that's okay. Because the one thing about Blu-ray, and the one thing I'm glad ESPN did, is they turned this into a tight package. This will fit in your shelf very nicely, as opposed to the Three Stooges one, which will pretty much take up your entire living room. So I would highly recommend, if you're a sports fan, 30 for 30 collector's set, films 1 through 30. This is good-looking stuff from the folks at ESPN Films. 30 short documentaries. The only other sports Blu-ray this week is New York Giants Road to XLVI.
Yeah, that
XLVI.
That would be the last, whatever the most recent Super Bowl was.
Now the Giants,
like 46, right?
For the second time in 5 years. For the second time in 5 years, the Giants are world champions. Wade.
Yep.
I never really saw
Eli Manning.
Eli Manning as being a Super Bowl quarterback.
I know.
He didn't scream Super Bowl quarterback.
He's got now more Super Bowls than his brother.
He's got a couple.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Anyway, this is 2 discs. The first disc has the wild card game and the playoff game, and then the second disc has the championship game and the Super Bowl. So if you're a Giants fan, and you know who you are, this is must-get stuff.
Groovy.
Not a whole lot on the extras front, but still, you got 4 complete football games on these discs, so that should be totally plenty. You could also jump to any particular play you want to see through this play tracker feature that they have, which I think is kind of cool. Anyway, so if you love football, go for it. If you don't love football, then why are you listening to this part of the show? If you don't love football, Wade, why?
I don't know.
Makes no sense.
Maybe they want to hear about a couple potential rentals from Arc Entertainment. These are both new to DVD, not Blu-ray. And they're both kind of cheesy B films. One is better than the other, but for people that like to kind of discover weird little eccentric genre-ish movies that they might otherwise not know about, we got Metal Tornado, which is a silly but relatively inoffensive B movie, centered around the idea that there are that somehow an experiment has gone wrong and it's generating these like metallic tornadoes that just drop down from the sun and destroy things. It's a bit of a kind of cheesy disaster movie, not credible by science or even by general filmmaking standards, but it's kind of fun to laugh at. And a little bit more legit is Knockdown, which stars Casey T. Evans, Tom Arnold, and Bai Ling. I always enjoy when Tom Arnold shows up in supporting roles in these movies, especially when he's trying to be a tough guy, which never really rings true. But this is an okay film. It's about a guy who's kind of a disgraced boxer, a down-and-out boxer living in Bangkok and trying to sort of redeem himself with all these seamy, nasty, gangster-ridden subplots kind of creeping out of the shadows and trying to drag him back into the muck. It's a pretty well-written film, actually, for a low-budget kind of crime thriller set in Bangkok, which makes me think they got some Bangkok money in it.
Speaking of crime thriller set in Bangkok, we have some Criterions coming up in a few minutes.
Yes, we
must talk about it. Unless you want to talk about them now.
You know what? Let's hit the Criterions right now, Mark.
These are three must-buys.
Three must-buys, and then a couple
rare.
of Ingmar Bergman must-buys. But the three English-language must-buys, or the three American Hollywood must-buys.
Three must-buys, Wade.
Launch into them.
I saw Shallow Grave actually in Leicester Square in London.
It's the best movie.
And Danny Boyle was this guy making his, kind of his film debut. And who is this Danny Boyle guy? What is the Shallow Grave all the kids in London are talking about?
And I remember you came back and you raved about it, and then I did the press junket, and I actually sat down with Danny Boyle. I had no idea who he was. Sat down with him for about a half an hour, and I thought he might have either been mentally ill or addicted to cocaine or something, and then I realized this guy just has he has mountains of energy. He looked like a leprechaun, and he just sat down, and he was so energetic, and he almost scared me.
I love Shallow Grave. I love Train Spotting. I love 28 Days Later. I love Slumdog Millionaire.
He's the man.
I love Millions.
Yeah.
By the way,
I don't love Millions, so that puts you. You also liked the.
I love Sunshine.
Yeah. Sunshine's a cool movie. I don't love it like you do, but it's cool.
I love Danny Boyle. Anyway, Shallow Grave also introduced the world to Ewan McGregor. And that's always a good thing. And in this Blu-ray, this beautiful Blu-ray, we have a whole bunch of good stuff like Criterion always does. Audio commentaries, one by Danny Boyle. New interviews with a couple of the actors, including Ewan McGregor. A documentary from '93 by Kevin MacDonald, interesting, directing this documentary. And it's just a great film. It's a great little tense thriller called Shallow Grave. It's on Criterion. You absolutely must at least rent it if you've never seen it. This is great stuff, Shallow Grave.
Yes.
Wade. That's what I'm talking about.
Totally.
Now, one of my all-time favorite comedies is available on... Oh, do you want to talk about that first, Wade?
Talk about what first?
I thought you were about
to... Yeah. No, let's... well, go ahead. Finish up Harold and Maude.
You just gave away what it was.
I know. Oh, I'm sorry. Was I not supposed to do that?
Harold and Maude, one of my all-time favorite comedies. This is directed by Hal Ashby. One of my... I love Hal Ashby. I love all of his films. Hal Ashby had an amazing 70s, then basically, struggled through the 80s and then died. But Harold and Maude from 1971 was kind of the first great, to me, Hal Ashby film. I mean, after that came Last Detail and Shampoo and Coming Home and Being There, one of my all-time favorite films ever, Being There. But Harold and Maude is just a great film. It stars Ruth Gordon and Bud Cort, and it is a dark comedy. It's got a lot of humor and drama and existentialism, and it's about this young kid who is obsessed with death, and he winds up developing a relationship with an 80-year-old woman played by Ruth Gordon, and it was just great. It was originally a novel, and it was shot in San Francisco, so there's a lot of cool little location shooting going on, and I just think this film is just unique and hilarious and bizarre, and it delves into the youth culture of the time and how alienated they were and how they thought they were doomed. Don't forget this is during the Cold War.
Yep.
And Maude's past is revealed to be a Holocaust past, and there's themes rippling through about that, about death and survival.
Fantastic.
And it's a great film, very highly recommended by me. The Blu-ray includes an audio commentary by a Hal Ashby biographer, a new interview with Cat Stevens, who has some songs in the film. Of course, Cat Stevens eventually went Muslim and changed his name to Yusuf something or other.
Yep.
And I love this film. I love it to death. Harold and Maude. Get it, buy it.
And in just a moment, we're actually going to do a giveaway. Now, it's a little bit of a different giveaway because for a title we're going to cover next week. It's a television title, and we're going to do a giveaway for Louis Season 2, the kind of very successful series, astonishingly successful series by Louis CK. We're not going to review it until next week, but we're going to do a giveaway this week so that we can announce the winners the same week that we talk about it. So stay tuned for that in just a moment. We're going to wrap the show up with that. But also from Criterion this week, Charles Chaplin's The Gold Rush, the one of the great all-time American masterpieces, and certainly one of Chaplin's very best films. This is just a beautiful film. Includes both versions, 1925 and the 1942 version, which is shorter and has, well, not as good. A lot of people... He added sound to the 1942 version, and it's not... It's a peculiarity, but the classic version that everyone loves is the 88-minute 1925 version. Compare them both. They're both here for the first time ever, and this is from the Janus Films collection, which is always reliable. Their elements are always just sensational, and the extras are just beyond compare. The transfer is spectacular. It's a 2K transfer, which is all it really needs to be, and beautiful 5.1 audio. Fabulous, featurettes, interviews, the whole thing. Come on, it's Criterion, it's Chaplin. I don't need to sell that. And then lastly from Criterion, we have a couple of Ingmar Bergman films you have probably never heard of on Blu-ray, Summer Interlude and Summer with Monica. These are certainly among the earlier Bergman films that I was unfamiliar with. Summer Interlude is from 1951 and Summer with Monica is from 1953. And they're really interesting films because they're not classic Ingmar Bergman films. You sort of see him evolving as the guy who would later take the world by storm with The Seventh Seal and everything else, and Winter Light, and on and on and on, and Through a Glass Darkly, and you name it. So this almost feels like he's trying to be a little bit commercial, a little bit artsy, and not quite getting a handle on the guy that he would eventually become. But it still meditates on some very heavy issues about life and death and love and art and the role of art in life and how humans interrelate. Photography is spectacular. Summer with Monica is actually also it's kind of in the same vein, but it's maybe a little bit more commercial. Certainly one of the few films he made that has sort of an eroticism to it. Anyway, a great interview on Summer with Monica with Harriet Anderson, with film scholar Peter Cowie, who does a lot of stuff for Criterion. And there's a really cool interview with film scholar Eric Schaefer about Kroger Babb, who distributed Monica, the Story of a Bad Girl, which is Summer with Monica, but he distributed it as an exploitation film. And it's really interesting because Kroger Babb is a guy that we dealt with a little bit in our documentary Schlock. He was one of the great pioneers in exploitation distribution. So anyway, that history of this film is really interesting. It was not originally an art film. And so here's our giveaway, Mark. We're going to end the show with the giveaway. We're giving away 3 Blu-rays of Louis Season 2, which is the Louis CK series. It is we're giving away.
That's a good one.
That's a great one. We're not going to review this until next week. So we need people to email us, gods@digigods.com, email us, and put Louis in the subject. And it needs to get to us. Make sure that your email is time-stamped no later than Friday, June 15th. Friday, June 15th. As long as the timestamp on the email is June 15th, we're good. And put Louis, Louie, in the subject. And we're going to randomly pick 3 people to receive Blu-rays of Louis Season 2. How do you like that?
I like that a lot.
And we're going to talk about it next week.
That's a good giveaway.
That's a good giveaway.
That's no piker.
It's no piker. And, Louis C.K. is awfully funny on that show. And he's the creative force behind the show. It's not like they just dragged him in and said, here, say some funny crap that some talentless hack wrote.
No,
he's the guy.
You realize that he was doing everything for that show himself, including edit it.
Yeah, I know.
But in this last season, he hired Woody Allen's editor to edit the film, Susan Morse.
No kidding.
Susan Morse now edits Louis.
Oh, that's pretty great.
Yeah.
That's outstanding. All right, well, that is it. Again, gods@digigods.com. Put Louis in the subject, and we will make sure you are stamped no later than the 15th of June. And if we receive all your emails...
Now, wait, is it stamped on the 15th of June?
No later than.
Okay.
No later than.